Sean, thank you for the warm welcome. Everyone who's watching live, it is an honor to be with you. I see that we have people from quite literally, Sean, all over the world in your tribe here with us today. Just a quick tech check. I'm going to share my screen and I want to make sure that you guys can all see it. So let's do that first. And if you are here with us live, let me know if you can see my screen. Just give me a yes in the chat if that works. Cool,
Yep.
Teresa, thank you. All the others are saying yes. All right, wonderful. So Sean, I'll take it away here. Let me just maximize this. And today I'd like to spend a few moments with you guys all talking about how to skyrocket your business using the power of your personal brand. Before we really start diving in, I'd love to hear what business you are working on right now, what kind of business you're in. We have, again, folks from all over the world, and I would just love to hear what your business is, or if you're starting and growing one right now, kind of what industry you're in. Those of you who are here live, just throw that into the chat. Sean, I know from just our experience working together, I tend to have a lot of coaches and speakers and creators, like you mentioned earlier. And in your tribe, like you're working with business owners from all different backgrounds. Is that right?
Yeah, so we've got within the Thinking Big tribe, we've got people from a lot of personal development. So, like your
Hmm.
tribe, it's a lot of people who are in personal development or coaching, or people who are doing side hustles. To me, everyone's going to have a side hustle within the next year or two. I mean, that's just the way things are going. We're going to have a side hustle, and a lot of my tribe are people who are trying to start that side business or trying to grow that side business, so they don't have to do that main business anymore, the
Yeah,
job.
yep, absolutely. So I see a couple of the comments here: personal development, hybrid coach, mentor, teacher, um, launching a book slash business. Okay, so we I think we're gonna kind of like be spot on, hit the nail on the head here with what I'd like to kind of share. I see early years language development franchise, amazing, right? So there's a lot that we're all involved in, and I want to start with talking about the 5 core competencies in your business. And this is true of any business that you're in, any business represented here. There are certain principles that are universal to business. And when we look at these 5 core competencies, we can often look at them and just and go back and kind of pinpoint where are the things that we need to work on. So we all of us, if we want to be successful in business, need to do these well to some degree. So the first thing I'm going to say is content. And content, what I'm referring to there is what people read, watch, listen to, or consume in order to learn about your business. How many of us here on this call or watching in the replay consume some sort of content? The answer is absolutely yes, which is why you're here watching this presentation. You are a listener of Sean's podcast. You're either on his you're listening to his podcast, you're on his email list, you may be following him on social media. You may have done a workshop with him, you may have taken a quiz that he offered, which landed you on his email list. And at some point along the way, you digested content. You read something, watched something, listened to something, consumed something in order to learn about today's session, right? So this is something that all of us as business owners have to understand needs to be a part of our business building endeavors. Now, the second thing is marketing. And oftentimes these two things get mixed up, they get interchanged, right? They're used interchangeably. Content is not the same thing as marketing. Marketing is the distribution of content in order to generate interest. This is really important. I've highlighted these words because so much of the time we think creating content is just marketing. No, you've got to distribute it. You've got to get it out there. When I met Sean a number of years ago, he had these competencies. He had these life experiences, business experiences, and he was saying like, "Hey, I'm thinking about starting a podcast." I'm like, "Yeah, go do it." So he's got this content, he's got this expertise, but now he's distributing it on a podcast. He's distributing it on social media and using these different channels to generate interest. right? Now, sales is the process of converting that interest into clients and customers. I think all of us could agree here that we would all like to have more sales, right? We'd all like to have more sales. Of course, you have to look at support in your business. What are the systems that you have? What are you doing in order to enhance the client experience, to keep your clients and customers happy? And of course, you have operations, which is the management of all your people and processes. Now, quick question here. I'd love to interact with those of you who are here with us on the call live. Which one of these is the most expensive thing? No trick questions here. You know, I want to kind of in dialogue and interact with everybody. What do you feel like is the most expensive thing out of these five? Right? No trick question, no wrong. I just want to kind of gauge um, what y'all are feeling, right? Okay, so we got a couple of responses: marketing, two for marketing, operations, right? And we look at these things and we're just like, okay, what's the most expensive thing not to have? Let me phrase it that way. What's the most important thing not to have? What I often hear from people, we've got marketing, more marketing, that's sales. And here's the truth of the matter. And again, not trying to trick anybody, but the most expensive one to not have is the next one. Because without the next one, you don't have those that follow. So if you have content, but you don't distribute it widely enough, that's a really expensive thing to be missing. And if you are spending on creating content and doing marketing, but you are not converting sales, that's a very expensive loss, right? And then if you have sales, and Sean, I run into this with many business owners, right, through my years, they have sales, but they're not good at support. So they're always having to get new clients and customers rather than keeping the ones that they have, right? It's always more expensive to acquire a new client or customer than to keep the existing ones that you have happy, right? And then you can have all of this going on, but if you have terrible operations, you're losing money on customer support and management and all that sort of stuff. So I want us to kind of understand this, and where I can come into play, particularly for today, are in steps 1 and 2, content and marketing. I want to start by outlining this. This is one of my core philosophies in business, and coming from a background in branding and marketing, I would say this: marketing isn't about closing a sale. It's about opening a relationship. It's all about making it easy for people to understand what we do, why we do it, and what we stand for. Now, I want to kind of just lay out this progression that all of our prospects, whether they realize it or not, and even whether we realize it or not, are going to walk through in order to do business with a brand, right? We talked about content, we've talked about marketing, sales, support, and operations. And the prospect progression is this. Many of us have only heard the first 3 steps of this. I want to add a couple more. All of us have heard that people do business with those that they know, like, and trust. And this is where content and marketing come into play. If people don't know you, they won't have a chance to like you, right? And if they don't like you, then they're definitely not going to trust you, and it all stops there. But there are a couple more steps that we have to provide, especially in this day and age, for people to walk through in order to transact, right? In order to close business. And I would say these are the 4 extra steps. You've got to allow people to try you out. If they like trying out your stuff, they may buy. Once they buy, you want them to repeat buy. And then once they repeat, you want them to refer you to other people, right? And what I find that happens a lot for us as business owners is that we're really good at understanding these 3 things: the know, like, and trust, but we don't do these other things. And this is our job. All of this is our job. It's incumbent on us to make it easy for people to try us out, to buy, to repeat, and refer. If we don't have those systems down, we end up losing out on those core competencies of business, right? Now, let's just take a real life example. Sean, I know you came from a tech background. I remember years and years ago, everyone started to talk about Apple products, and I was not a user of the first iPhone or anything like that. But I realized, like, man, if I'm going to be in the creative space, I'm going to have to learn how to use some of these products. And I got a MacBook, and I had known about Apple, and I heard other people talk about how great it was. And I went in there, and it's like, okay, people are saying good things. I sort of liked them. I sort of went, you know, they had a good reputation. And what did I do? I went to the Apple store. All right, went to the Apple store to try it out, right? And I knew about them. I went into the store, played around with some of the stuff, trust, I try it out, you buy the phone. And I've been an iPhone user, love me or hate me, for over 10 years now. And I've bought almost every single phone. And it's kind of funny, you see in this third picture here, they used to be really small like this. And now they've just gotten bigger, which is odd. They're getting bigger, whereas they used to be small, right? And I want us to understand that for all of our businesses, this is the progression that our prospects go through. And it's our responsibility as business owners to make all 7 of these steps very easy. So I want to lead this into really the main crux of what I want to talk about today and share with you and add value to you with, which is the power of your personal brand. So let me explain what I mean by personal brand. It's an identity that's based on your ideas, your expertise, your reputation, and your personality. It's really those 4 things combined together that make it easy for people to understand who you are and what you stand for. Now, if any of you have ever landed new business based on someone else's recommendation, you already understand this. There's a reputation, right, at stake. There's a reputation at play. Someone comes recommended by someone else that you know, right? Those of you who are here live, let me know, have you ever landed new business based on someone else's recommendation, or have you ever chosen to do business with somebody because a friend or a family member recommended them? We would all say yes, right? We'd all say, hey, who do you know that could help me with this problem? We see, everyone's going to say yes to this. We've all done it at some point. And so what I want to share with you today are a few practical steps to be strategic and intentional about using your ideas, your expertise, your reputation, and your personality in order to grow your business. Now, this is not new. This concept of personal branding has been around as long as people have been around, right? As long as people have been alive, as long as humanity has existed. A couple of really good examples. Now, love it or hate it, love them or hate them. You don't have to love all these people or agree with them. These are very recognizable people, right? We've got Jeff Bezos, we've got Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Oprah Winfrey, Sarah Blakely. Some you may know more than others, obviously, right? But these folks are just as famous, if not more famous, than the businesses they founded, right? And you might not want to be a world famous person. You might not want to have all of this attention like these folks, right? But there are principles that we can learn and we should learn so that we can decide how much of our personal brand we want to leverage in order to grow our business. Now, a lot of you here, especially lives, have mentioned that you're in some sort of coaching or advisory role. That's the kind of business you're starting. And it's even more important for those of you in those types of industries to be intentional about building your personal brand. It's so funny. I've heard of all these people. The person I least heard about was the gal in red, Sarah Blakely. Of course, no surprise, because her brand is called Spanx. It's women's athletic wear. I'm not really in her target market, right? At least for myself, I'd buy some of these clothes for my sister, my mother, or who not. But multi-billion-dollar brand. And she has used her personal brand to grow Spanx. And at this level, these people, these personal brands are almost indistinguishable from their companies, from their businesses. And there's a lot of truth in that. Now, you might say, Mike, I don't want to be that famous. I don't want to deal with all these headaches. I'm not an egomaniac or anything like that. Okay. How would this apply to me? Well, here's a funny thing. You guys may have heard of the brand called Kohler. They make faucets. for your kitchen and your bathroom? It's the name of the founder. Most people don't know that. And of course, all of us have heard of Walmart. What's Walmart named after? How did they come up with the name? It's the Walton family, right? It was a family business. They branded it with part of their last name. And then you have Sam's Club, which is the patriarch of the Walton family. That is a branch of the Walmart Corporation. So we've seen personal branding everywhere. And I want to take you through a couple of steps here that hopefully will make it easier for you to understand where a personal brand fits in promoting your business. Okay. This is something I call the Brand You Blueprint. And these are 8 steps to showcasing your unique expertise and building a business around your personal brand, or using your personal brand to grow your business footprint. And I put this green arrow here because most people, when they think about starting a business, start right there at step number 5. They think about products. What products can I bring to the market? Is it athletic wear? Is it e-commerce platform? Is it a coaching program? Is it do they involve consulting hours? What is the product that I'm trying to offer to the market? How do I, number 6, price it? How do I pitch it? And how do I find partners? But what I'd propose to you, and we're seeing this even in the example of the aforementioned well-known celebrities that I've shared about, right, is that we have to make sure that we're intentional about building steps 1 through 4. This is where your personal brand can fuel your business. There's a reason why people start businesses or particular business, right? Especially if you are in the coaching, speaking, consulting, expert-based space, you have, number 1, a point of view. And then once you formulate your point of view, you've got to share some personal stories around it in order to contextualize your expertise, your ideas, your reputation, your personality. And number 3, you've got to find a platform to share those personal stories on. And then you've got to be intentional about how you position yourself in the market. And what I see a lot of people miss are these steps 1 through 4. They miss these, right? Real quick, those of you who are here live, are there any authors or speakers or coaches that you really follow and that you really admire, that you look up to? You find that you're buying a lot of their books, you're consuming a lot of their videos online. You're allowed to say Sean Osborn if you'd like. Right here, here he is on his podcast. Teresa said Napoleon Hill. Okay, perfect. Author of the famous book Think and Grow Rich. Katie said James Wedmore. I know James, right? Katie said the other Katie said Bear Grylls. Okay, and again, more examples coming in. And I want you to think about these people and how much you really know about them and why you follow them. Chances are it's because they have a point of view, right? And you may have heard a couple of stories about how they either got started in business, or why they started their TV show or their podcast, or why they wrote their book. And you consumed that point of view or personal stories on a particular platform. So if it's Napoleon Hill, who's long since been deceased, I read Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich early on in my career. It's still a book I refer back to regularly. And he's got a certain point of view. You know what he stands for. You know what he thinks about money and how to attain wealth, right? And I know there are other people who love Napoleon Hill. How many of us know his story? We know his story, right? He's going to New Jersey. I'm going to work with Edison. We've all heard these stories. And how have we consumed that content? Through the platform of a book. Okay, so we see this. Yes, comments. Yes, I know his story. So we see this happening all the time. And I want us to be more intentional about formulating these first 4 steps, because it can really, really open up the rapport with an audience, with prospects, in order for them to come in and purchase products, purchase coaching hours, or purchase a program, whatever it is that you're offering to the market. Okay. So I want to pause right here. Make sure this makes sense. Is this making sense to everybody in terms of how I'm laying this out, right? Way too many of us jump in at number 5. A lot of us jump in just right away at number 3 and say, well, I need a new website. And they've never thought about what they're even going to put on that website because they've never worked through their point of view or their personal story. So I'm seeing the yes. Okay, the yes is, I'm so glad that this is making sense. And what I want to take you through now here are the first couple of steps, right? So to frame everything, and we're going to dig into points 1 and 2. I want us to understand that no matter what kind of business we have, we need to have 3 stories in the icebox, if you will, ready to go. Number 1, the founder story. Number 2, the business story. And number 3, the customer story. And we need to have all 3 of these at the ready. Now I'm going to take you into a little process of how we can learn how to do this and formulate these things. But let me start with a quick overview of what I mean by these. The founder story is your story. If this is your business that you're starting or growing or you're working on, that's your story. Why did you choose that story? Where was that passion for this business birthed from? It doesn't matter if the business isn't always like something that you woke up destined to do. Sometimes we start businesses just because we need to, and that's okay. But we need to know that the market needs to know that. Why? Because marketing, again, is not about closing a sale. It's about opening a relationship. Any of you just said, the people that you follow, you know their stories. You know where they're coming from and why they do what they do. That leads us into number 2, the business story. How did your company start? How did your small business start? How did your coaching or consulting practice start? How did all of this begin? See, Jeff Bezos, as much as he's synonymous with Amazon, they're not the same entity. He can sell the company. He can sell his shares. He can be replaced depending on the board situation, right? They are not the same thing. You've got Bezos, and then you've got his business, right? It started in a garage. It's like the classic Silicon Valley type rags to riches story, or like I started real small, right? We need to know this. Now, finally, the customer story is the transformation that a client or customer has experienced as a result of working with you. Are you communicating? Are you telling? Are you sharing case studies, testimonials, the things people have accomplished as a result of working with you? Okay, all 3 of these are important. So I want to get a little bit interactive here. And I want to encourage you, grab a sheet of paper, a pen. If you're typing on your computer while this presentation is going on, that's fine too. I know Zoom takes up the whole screen whenever I share my screen. So if you want to X out of that, just hit the escape key on your keyboard and it'll shrink it down, right? But I want to get a little bit interactive so that we get some work done while we're on the call together, right? And we're going to spend a little bit of time on this. I want to take you through 3 questions in order to bring out at least your founder story and your business story. I'm going to share this little graphic that I call the PB3, the personal brand 3. These are a set of questions that I take every client I work with, whether they're students in a program, whether they're my mastermind group, or whether they're a private client where our team is doing their marketing for them. Because what I need in order to help a brand increase its footprint and increase awareness is I need to see what ingredients we're working with. It's sort of like you got some food in the fridge and you don't want to throw the food away. You want to see what you can cook up. You got to get all the ingredients on the kitchen counter. You got to get them all there so we can see what we're working with. So this is what I call the PB3, the personal brand 3. These are 3 questions that help you dig into the 3 stories that sell. And I'm going to use a little language, no profanity, but I'm from New Jersey. We talk like this. Number 1, what pisses you off? And I'm trying to get emotional about this. I want to draw out the emotion in you. Number 2, what breaks your heart? And number 3, what's the big problem you solve? Okay, and I'm going to type this in the chat as we go. But when I talk about what pisses you off, what I'm really talking about there is the injustice that you see in the world. And I'm using that word on purpose, injustice, to draw something out of you. So many of us get stuck on the product or the service that we're going to offer. We don't get into and we don't dig into the core of why we do what we do. When I talk about what breaks your heart, what I'm really talking about there is compassion. The compassion that you have for certain people or for a certain cause, a particular cause, right? What breaks your heart? And we're talking about the big problem you solve. This is your business, right? And I'm going to write this in the chat, and I'm going to say this out loud for everybody watching on the replay. Business is nothing more, if you think about it, business is nothing more than solving a problem for a profit. Now, there are some businesses that don't make a profit, and that's never a good scenario, right? We want to fix those things. And if there is something else that's, anything that solves a problem not for profit, it's literally called a not for profit, right? There are charities out there, which are very important. But I think most of us here on this call, we're looking to solve a business problem. We're trying to solve a problem, right? So I want to encourage you guys to take a minute or so right now. And I see a couple of the comments already. What pisses you off and what breaks your heart? Let's start there. And these are intentionally open-ended because I want you to just let it out. I want you to take the lid off your soul, if you will. I want you to take the lid off of your heart. What pisses you off and what breaks your heart? Okay, so I'm going to stop talking for a couple minutes. And if you're open to it, share in the chat so that I can unpack this messaging with you. It's always easier to see this happen live. Okay, so I see a couple of comments already. I'll stop talking now. There are some of these ingredients right here on the kitchen table if you will. Okay, throw your thoughts into the chat. All right, I love these responses. Keep them coming, crew. Just let it all out. We're not in a rush. I'll leave another minute. Like, you guys are really writing some great things here. So keep it coming and don't edit anything. Just let it all out. You're doing great.
Yeah, Mike, there's some really good things coming up here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. All right, these are great responses. I want to ask, especially those of you who are still processing through this, how does it feel to share this? Like, especially those of you who shared in the chat, like, how does it feel to get this off your get this off your chest, right? Get this, just let it out. How does it feel? Does it feel good? Does it feel natural? Does it feel like, phew, all right, we're getting a bunch of goods? And how would you feel if this is all you had to do to market yourself and market your business? Wouldn't that be amazing? Well, that's my point. It can be this simple. We just have to be intentional about sharing these stories, right? So we're getting a couple of amazings. It adds great clarity, very useful exercise. Yeah, because again, when we dig into what we believe and why we believe it, we start to formulate a point of view. What all of you are sharing here is your point of view on a certain topic, right? So again, more comments are coming in. It feels good and natural. I've been working on writing my sales page copy for my true authentic self. This is freeing. Katie said it gives me clarity, and I like the way you've given us permission to let it out. Yes, right? So I'm going to read through a couple of these comments here. And I'm going to maybe take one person and dig into this a little bit, because I want to show you some practical things you can do, again, to be intentional about sharing your answers to these questions and turning them into content and distributing that content through your marketing channel. So one of the things that I saw here as you guys were leaving some comments. Let me find one here. I saw there's so many good ones, right? These are so good. Okay, I'm going to take Katie's here. Now, this is going to be a little bit outside of maybe being universally applicable, but I want you to understand the principle here. So Katie said, Katie Main, Katie, I hope you don't mind. I'm just picking up on your story right here, right on the spot. What breaks my heart? Parents and babies not understanding each other. Okay, so let's dig in a little bit with what Katie shared here, because she had a lot to share here. And what ticks her off is babies and pre-verbal children not being understood. And she said the big problem she wants to solve is helping young parents spend time with their little ones, teaching them some signs, following their cues, giving them vocabulary for what they're looking at, etc. Understood babies equal happy babies. Parents and carers that understand their babies equal happy parents and carers, and a lot less stressed and frustrated. Now, y'all might be like, Mike, I don't help babies and parents. How is this going to be relevant to me? And you know, Katie probably doesn't remember or may not remember being a baby. Is there really a personal connection in? And what I would say is this, and Katie, you're free to chime in on the chat as much as you want. But when I read what someone writes in response to these questions, what pisses you off, what breaks your heart, what's the big problem you're trying to solve? What I'm trying to do, if you could see me on the video, I feel like almost like in a symbolic sense, I'm running my hand over a piece of fabric to see if I can pick up on a thread that's just sticking out a little bit. And if I find something, I'm going to pull on that. Okay. So I want to articulate this the best that I can. What I'm hearing from Katie's response is, even though she's talking about parents and carers understanding babies they care for and babies being understood, and when we do this, they all feel happier. The thread I'm picking up on from Katie's life and her responses to these questions is that empathy and holding space is really important to her. Give me a yes in the chat if you guys understand what I'm saying there. give me a yes in the chat if that's making sense, right? Because I'm not focusing just on the babies and parents. I'm looking at what is she really saying underneath all of that? Okay, so I'm getting a bunch of yeses in the chat, right? So if I'm going to market her business, whatever stage her business is in, well, I'm marketing her business and I'm trying to contextualize their products, their services, whatever stage they're in. I'm trying to pull on that thread, and I want to find out if there was ever a season in Katie's life as the founder where she felt misunderstood, and as a result of that felt uncared for or felt frustrated. Or I want to know if there was a situation in her life where she was trying to understand someone else and just didn't have the skills to do it and felt frustrated. Now, Katie, you don't have to chime in if you don't want to. I don't mean to put you on the spot, right? But if you've ever had a time in your life where you felt misunderstood or you felt like you were misunderstanding someone else, just give me a yes in the chat if you've ever had that in your life. And my suspicion, and if I were working with Katie one-on-one, okay, she said yes with a big exclamation point, right? If I'm working with her one-on-one, we're doing a strategy call like this, and it's just in private. We can open up fully about, what those experiences were like. I'm going to ask her, and this is not on the notes here, but I want you guys all to jot this down. I'm going to ask her a simple question. How did you learn this? What experience did you have that made you learn the importance of empathy and understanding each other, understanding other people, and giving them the gift of being understood? How did you learn that? How did you learn that that's so important in love? Okay. Now, I want to pause here again, because this is really the goal of what I'm trying to share with you all today. It's not just the answers to what pisses you off, what breaks your heart, and what's the big problem you're trying to solve. Yes, that's the start. And we've done that. We've done a really good job of that. But now when I'm walking with you, talking with you, strategizing with you, I want to pull the story that birthed these values in you. Okay. Give me a yes in the chat if this is resonating, if you're understanding, like, wow, okay, I totally get, I'm starting to get this. Right. I remember growing up where I did, we've all faced moments in our lives where we were misunderstood, where we were made fun of maybe for being different. We didn't totally conform. And I saw a lot of thoughts here in the chat with many of the things that you guys had said. What pisses you off? Being forced to conform to something, corporate America. I saw a couple of those, right? And we've all experienced things like that. And what we want to do when in our marketing is to find that thread, pull it. And if it's an appropriate story to share, let that contextualize your content, your marketing, your sales, your processes, your support systems, all of it, right? So we're digging into this. Erin, thank you for that comment. I see that. She said brilliant digging. When we unlock what's on the inside, it makes the telling of those stories and all of our marketing, those stories make our marketing so much easier. Makes it so much easier, right? I remember, especially when I started out my career, a lot of people would ask me, hey, what's your story? How'd you get into what you're doing? And what I want to encourage you with today, and what I want to challenge you with, is that you have to have an answer at the ready when someone asks you that question, right? Earlier, I talked about the founder story, the business story, and the customer story. For me, what pissed me off and what led me down this road to starting my own business was that I worked at this company. I was their chief marketing officer, and Sean knows this story. I've told this story so many times, and I was working like 60 hours a week plus, and my family came over for Thanksgiving, and I got an email that night after staying up late, hanging out with my family, and they said, we need you to come into work tomorrow. I was so upset about that, right? I was like so pissed off. to be honest about that. I couldn't believe they were calling me in, and we weren't a retail business. We didn't need to be open on Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, but they called me into work, and I had to leave my family at my own home to go to work. And that just started me down this path to really uncovering what broke my heart. And I was like, wait, I have life experiences and I work with some really smart people, but we're just confined in this trap that we, and I saw again, some of you had said like corporate American fitting in, and it broke my heart to see people doing work that they really didn't enjoy. They just hated what they did for a living. They just did it for a paycheck. And they were so smart and so wise, but the world never got to know about them. And so the big problem I decided to solve was to help that small portion of the human population that wants to advise and coach and consult other people and organizations out there to make the world a better place, right? Does that make sense at all? Give me a yes in the chat if that starts to make sense, right? So when I share those stories, I become more than just a marketing consultant or a brand strategist. I almost feel like sometimes I'm like a life coach who helps people just unpack their stuff and then start a business based on what they know and what they've experienced. And that's here we are all these years later, right? So as we dig in, again, what pisses you off? What breaks your heart? What's the big problem you're trying to solve? Many of us said, wow, this felt so freeing. There's a lot of clarity here. These are the raw ingredients that you've got on the kitchen counter. And the next thing that you want to bring in is a story from your experiences that maybe not directly, as in Katie's scenario, parents and babies, but a broader concept of understanding and empathy and helping people feel understood. And so there might be a reason that Katie chose to work with babies and parents where there might not be, but we want to figure out what that is. Okay. All right. Aaron asked a great question here, and I'm open to taking questions here for the next couple of moments. And then if you guys are cool with it, I'll share an opportunity. Maybe I can help you and work together with you if that's cool. Okay. But I want to get to a couple of these questions first, right? So Aaron asked, what's appropriate to share though? For example, my thread in wanting to help people grow their business while maintaining positive well-being is a direct result of recovering from my own disabilities. I know what it's like to lose myself in work. I also know what it's like to experience fear of dying. Don't I lose credibility by sharing that I've been disabled? Aaron, I actually think it's the opposite. It makes people trust you more because, especially in your line of work, and I want you guys, so for some of you, this is really going to be important. If you're coaching and advising people, your vulnerability is actually strength. I'll say that again. If you are working with coaching and guiding people, advising people, you're working with them directly. They're getting to know you, you're getting to know them, even as counselor, therapist, coach, whatever. Your vulnerability becomes a strength because you model to them what's inside of you, and that gives them permission to let out what's going on in them. Okay. And Aaron, that may be a process for you to be able to be okay with sharing some of those things, but I want to encourage you, just keep on the path, right? You share what you're ready to share when you're ready to share it, but don't shut it off, because that openness, that vulnerability that you exhibit could be exactly what attracts people to you. I found that over and over again. Sean, I know you've experienced the same thing. When you share these things, and here's another important point. You share from scars, not open wounds, right? I mean, if you're still going through this stuff, you don't want to share all that stuff. I see a lot of people build their marketing messages, and on one hand, they're presenting a version of themselves that's not true. And then on the other hand, they just, they open up about everything in the name of authenticity. That's not what I'm talking about. I don't want you to sell your struggles. I want you to sell a solution. But if you're operating from scars and that wound is healed and it's kind of covered up and it's been a little bit of time, you've done a lot of work around it and you can share openly about it, then that is that is a strength. That's on the plus side of the ledger. Okay. Um, Katie came back. She had a connection issue. We've been talking about today. She said, before I started my business, I was a primary school teacher and then worked with profoundly deaf children. I know about their frustrations, which then leads to behavioral issues. Their self-confidence was also rock bottom. When we started to sign with them, they changed overnight. They bloomed. Amazing. Okay. So that is part of her story. But if I'm working with Katie one-on-one, I'm digging into where that comes from. Why is she so passionate about lifting people's confidence, right? What is it that allows her or compels her or catalyzes her to unlock that in people? Maybe Katie had a mentor, a teacher, or a coach that built self-confidence into her and she bloomed. Do you guys see how this is all fitting together? Right? You see how this is all fitting together. So Sean, I know
And
you've kind of
Mike,
gone through stuff like that. Yeah.
yeah, and so what Aaron was saying was exactly where I was, and I had the exact same fears, So part of my past that I talk about now was, being homeless at the age of 15. And I'm telling you, before 2017, 2018, 2019, as Mike knows, part of my thing is homeless clubs like Fight Club. And the first rule of homeless club is you don't talk about homeless club. So I never talked about, these struggles of the past, but it, as he says, it truly is. It sets you apart when you start using your stories as a way to embody who you really are. And again, it can't be open wounds because it's very hard to operate from there. But yeah, absolutely. And I think we all go through that, Aaron. I mean, that's to me a natural thing that we progress through.
Yeah. So I hope that this is been clarifying for all of you who have been here and even those watching on the replay. I'd love to hear from those of you who are live. Like, what's one of the big takeaways you had from today's session? We did quite a bit of work here. Okay, Ina said vulnerability is truly strength, not weakness. Love that. Okay, what other takeaways do some of you have from some of the work that we've done together here in the last hour or so? I'd love to hear what's resonating with you. Okay, Teresa said the 3 stories that sell. That makes it really easy, right? To understand. And so the founder story is really your answers to the questions, what pisses you off and what breaks your heart. That's your founder story. And then your business story is what's the big problem you solve. You see how that makes sense, right? So in Katie's sense, what pisses her off? Not being understood. People operating and going through life with very low levels of confidence. Or, and this is something I'm reading from what she's shared, what ticks her off is people being spoken to or communicated to in a way that's not natural for them. That ticks her off. And what breaks her heart is as a result of that, people's confidence is shattered. It's at an all-time low. They don't feel like they're blooming. They're not thriving in life, right? So what's the big problem she's trying to solve? She's particularly trying to help kids and their carers understand this. All this needs to be on, let's say, her website, right? The services page for what they do in the business. Okay, so that's how the 3 stories that sell get written. Barbara said, love the 3 questions with the 3 stories. Ina said, what pisses me off, never included that in my story. I should have. Absolutely, right? Okay, so there, and I like to teach in these frameworks, in these kind of rubrics, because all of us here, we're adults, right? I'm not going to give you formulas. I'm going to give you frameworks because then that gives you the margin and the leeway to bring in your own set of stories, your own experiences, and kind of connect them to the undergirding principles about branding and marketing. Okay. Aaron said 3 questions was helpful. Share from scars, not open wounds. Amazing. All right, cool. I know we're getting here to the top of the hour, and I just want to ask permission if this is okay. Are you guys open to hearing about a way I might be able to help you? If you'd like to work together past today, just throw a yes in the chat you're open to me kind of sharing a little bit about a way that I might be able to help you, or way we might be able to work together. Okay. Cool. All right. Sean and I have been talking before we did this presentation and put all this together. And we had hundreds of people register for the training, which is very, very cool. And I'd love to continue working with you guys. And Sean would say this, he knows me, he's known me for a couple of years now. I'm kind of like a go deep with a few people person rather than go shallow with a ton of people, right? I'm sort of like that. So I'd like to invite you guys to consider applying for what we're calling the Thinking Big Mastermind Group. I also know that you guys being in Sean's crew and tribe, you understand what masterminds are. You've heard that term, especially those of you who've come from that big background in with Napoleon Hill. But we want to work very, very closely with you. And I think one of the things that I can bring to the table, I think why Sean said yes to this, or yes to me, is that I can bring an element of marketing and branding and storytelling expertise to the community, to the group. Okay, so here are the nuts and bolts of it. It's 12 people total. We're going to meet every 2 weeks, starting on Wednesday, July 12th. And the calls are just under an hour and a half. Okay. We'll do a live in-person mastermind in September 2023, so in about 5 months or so. And the investment for this is $6,000 for the year, or you do 12 payments of $600 a month, right? We're going to be together for a year. You can't just buy your way in. We want to get to know you. We want to get to talk to you. We want to get to know what kind of business you're building. If you've been here on live on the call, and I've already kind of walked through a little bit of that stuff with you, even better. Sean's going to put a link into the Zoom chat box here where you can apply. Again, no rush. Today is Wednesday, so you got like 5 days to fill this out, and just fill that out. If things look good there, we'll book a one-on-one call with you all, kind of unpack everything that we're going to be doing together. And then if all looks good, we'll get ready to queue up in July. Now, one of the, a couple of extra things that we want to throw into the mix, because again, I'm sort of like a go deep with a few people rather than go shallow with a ton of people, right? We want to make available, if you're open to doing it, a one-on-one call with one of us, right? So that we can get to know what you're working on. I want to give you access to my personal branding course. Sean mentioned at the top of today's call that I've written a book called You Are the Brand. We hit a couple of bestseller lists. You could see actually right back there above that sign behind me, right? That's my book. We framed it, tried to celebrate the accomplishments, right? And I'll give you access to that whole online course so that you can use it as a reference library. It's lifetime access. You can keep that. And then I'm sure some of you have heard about all the things that are going on with artificial intelligence and ChatGPT. And I have a little prompt guide to help you use those technologies and tools to kind of get some of the writing work that you need to get done quicker. And I'm going to guide you through all this stuff during the mastermind together. But I want to invite you to apply if you're interested in working with me, okay, and with Sean, of course, as well. Now, here's one of the other cool parts of this. Being together, committing for that time together, allows me to kind of take my time to work much more closely, especially with you in my area of expertise. So in the first 2 months or so of our time together, I want to host a marketing accelerator during our calls. And I'm going to help you flesh out the 3 stories that sell. And again, this is manageable for me because we're only keeping it to 12 people, right? So I'm going to be doing these one-on-one calls. I'm going to be getting to know you and your business, right? It doesn't matter what stage of business you're in. I know that this will help you. If you have a website and or social media presence, then I'll dig into that with you and I'll say, hey, Katie, hey, Aaron, I think Barbara, I think you can tweak this on your website, or we can word this a little bit differently. And these are things that, I offer to the market and to my clients separately. I want to do this as part of our time together. And then we're going to talk about what the primary thing you're doing is to build your list or to build your database of prospects and clients and customers. So we're going to do this within the first 60 days. And after that initial run, you're going to have all this stuff in place, and that will help us hit the ground running. as we continue on through the year together. Okay, so again, 12 people total. We're going to meet every 2 weeks, starting Wednesday, July 12th, right? The calls are 80 minutes. And in between these calls, we'll start a Slack group. We'll be able to communicate that way. You'll be able to reach us. And here's the other cool thing about the way that I like to run masterminds. When people say, Mike, I want to be in a mastermind that you and Sean are running together. Look, we want to be on your team. If we're on your team, we're on your team. Okay. So you'll also get links to our calendars. You can book a quick call whenever you need it. Need to check in. I do this all the time with groups that I run because I don't want you to have to wait till the next meeting if something is urgent, right? So this is what it looks like. Again, you can't pay your way in. We want to get to know you. So take that link that Sean has put there in the chat box and take some time to fill out the application so that we can get to know you. Okay. I'd love to know, anyone interested in applying? Give me a yes in the chat, right? Awesome. Aaron just literally said before I finished my sentence, I'm very interested. Dynamic duo, thanks for the opportunity. We'll apply later. Yeah, take your time. And those of you watching the replay, we'll get this out to everybody as well. Okay. Anyone else interested in applying? And if you have any questions on how this all works, let me know now. I'll answer what I can in this moment. But either way, fill out the application because it's going to give you a lot of clarity in of itself, right? And then if things look good, we'll book a one-on-one call and we can kind of tackle some of your questions there directly as well. All right, Katie said this is exciting. I'm right at the stage where I want to take my business to the next level. Absolutely. Amazing.
And I
Sean,
want
any
to add
thoughts?
on, well, yeah, here's the thing. So I want people to know why I'm moving this way and why I'm doing this. And I'm not sure how many of you on here, put in the chat, how many on here have been through one of my Think and Grow Rich, either workshops or my challenges or one of those. And if you have, you're going to know that, mastermind, step 9 of the 13 steps, the power of the mastermind. And it is, again, it's one of the most powerful things we can do as both a person and as a entrepreneur to grow our businesses. And for the last 3 years, I've been asked, do you start a mastermind? Do you want to start a mastermind? I want to get in a mastermind. And I've always said no, because there's so much to it. And one of the first masterminds that I've joined in a long time that actually followed what I consider to be more like Napoleon's Hill mastermind groups and how they run, and you're tapping into a third mind, is when I joined Mike's back in, I think 2019 is when I joined yours. And
Yeah.
it's the first true mastermind that I've actually paid to be in that was mimicked around the Think and Grow Rich mastermind and how that works and how they're run. So when we start talking, saying let's pair up and let's see what we can do together, that's when I first said, okay, let's look at starting another mastermind or starting another new mastermind for me. I haven't started one for years, because there's so many things that this mastermind community offers that I can't offer in just a mastermind group by myself. So I'm looking at here's the thing, just from the mastermind for the last couple of years, we've had professional marketers in there, you included, writers, podcasters, people who have grown businesses from small to big. So imagine what Mike's teaching us as part of this is being included kind of in this mastermind community, but all these other aspects that we need for our companies as well. It's not just the marketing. It's again, podcasting, it's building your business. It's how to get people. So there's so many things that this mastermind community adds on top of the true mastermind group that we're going to start. So that's why I said yes, Mike, is because there's a whole nother layer above the mastermind group that we get when partnering with you that I just couldn't provide by doing just a mastermind group by myself. And that's, to me, that's where so much power comes from.
Yeah. What Sean's referring to is I have other mastermind groups that I'm running. And so if you guys are part of the mastermind that Sean and I are running, you're going to have access to those other 3 groups, which, like Sean said, are just incredible people. We actually centralize all the communication so people between groups can get to know one another. And then you'll meet all of each other at the September event, which is a closed event. It's only for people in our community. One of the fun things we do here, and Sean, you spoke at the last one, we have all our community members they nominate who they want to see speak at the live event. We videotape it. Excuse me. We get it on camera. You can do what you want with the footage, and it's just an awesome time. Aaron asked, "Is the mastermind co-led by you both?" Yes. Yep. So we'll be leading it together. You can't get rid of us. All right, we'll be we'll be there. All right. Where's the live mastermind located? Barbara, we're nailing that down. It's going to be on the East Coast this year, either in Tampa or Charleston, Tampa, Florida, or Charleston. We're actually working out the final details with the venue right now. It's looking like it's going to be September 21 and 22. I'm going to make an announcement next week. We're just nailing down the contract for that venue. It's between those two. Smaller group, right? Like 50 people. I think 50 people. So it's not one of these huge events. Like I said before, I like to go deeper with a smaller group of people than go shallow with a ton, right? Also, the other piece to that is every other group that I run is also 12 people. So I want you guys to understand, like when I'm talking about like 50 people, I'm willing to put in the time to create smaller groups so that I can really get to know those folks and they can get to know one another. What a lot of people do these days, and Sean was alluding to this, is that they start a quote unquote mastermind and there's 70 people in a mastermind. That doesn't make any sense to me. You can't get to know anybody. There's no real personal connection, right? So the way that I've run these masterminds, and Napoleon Hill was a huge influence on me when I started out. It was, no, I want to run it like he talks about. I don't want to run a glorified group coaching program or a glorified Q&A call where people are just listening in to me talking. I want people to really connect and interact and do business with and build friendships with one another. So it's pretty awesome. So yeah, we want to encourage you guys to apply. It'll take about 10 minutes to fill out the application. There's some questions in there that we're going to ask you to dig into a little bit of your background so that we can figure out if we can help, right? If this is right. Put the link there. And Sean, I want to thank you for just the opportunity to share with your crew today. It's been an honor. I hope that all of you had some real value that you can walk away with today, whether you choose to consider working with us down the road and journeying with us or not. I hope that I've given you something that you can chew on and use to build your business. So Sean, thank you, man. Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, thank you for coming on, and yeah, definitely adding some gold nuggets and some value to the people on. Again, sometimes a mastermind is not for someone, and that's why it's a small group. It's as you said, it's 12 people. It will not go bigger than that. It's going to be anywhere between 8 and 12 is where it's probably going to stay, but it will not go above 12. You do not get the mastermind effect, as you said, when it's above that. It's a coaching call, and that's not what it's about. So. Again, thank you everyone for coming in today. It's hopefully, as Mike said, you got something out of it and something to move you further, to move you faster towards your goals and towards your companies.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Be well, and we hope to see you in the mastermind. All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.